Good morning, everyone. This is John with Gun Deals, and today we're going to be talking about the Century Arms BF12. Now, before I get into the video, I do need to thank Gun Deals, one, for having me on the channel, and also for being an awesome website that points you in the right direction of some of the best deals, no pun intended, within the industry. Seriously, anything that you're looking for, go ahead and check out their website first. You'll probably find a link to it for the best possible price. Once again, they don't buy or sell anything, they merely point you in the right direction, so go ahead and check them out. Now, on top of that, while you're here, you might as well like, share, and subscribe, because all that sort of stuff is free, and comment literally anything down below. So first off, starting out with full disclosure, I personally have no relationship with Century Arms or the actual manufacturer of this shotgun in Turkey, because this is a Turkish manufactured shotgun and then imported to the USA by Century Dynamics. Now, Gun Deals did have this sent out to me for testing and evaluation, so I did not pay for it, and I believe the price of these shotguns is anywhere between $600 and $800 for a semi-auto bullpup styled shotgun. If you can't tell, this is indeed a bullpup with the magazine well behind the fire control unit. So first up, let's go ahead and get some of the basics and the design features out of the way. This is basically a two-piece, kind of three-piece design. So we have a lower section, which is this whole lower section here that has these three crossbolt pins that are captured, that come apart, and then the upper lifts away from the lower receiver. The lower receiver is some sort of polymer design. It seems fairly strong. There's lots of really cool guns out there, lots of military style firearms that use polymer lowers, so I do not have a problem with that. And this isn't like your cheap sort of polymer. It does seem very strong, very durable. The upper receiver is machined 7075 T6 aluminum. It's not quite monolithic. If you've watched my G-Force Arms review, their shotgun, which is a very similar action and operating system, it's very, very similar. So you pull off this barrel shroud by unscrewing it, and then the hand guard comes off, and then you're left with the upper receiver, barrel, and all of that stuff. Speaking of the barrel, this is a 4140 chromoly steel barrel. It is 18.5 inches long, which is basically perfect for most non-hunting applications. Most hunters like 24 to 28 inches for, you know, more long-range precision, that sort of stuff, tighter groups. Now, this is a gas-operated piston system, and the system is again identical to the other shotguns, or most of the other shotguns coming out of Turkey. So you have a piston that acts upon your two operating rods. The entire action is basically one big hunk of stainless steel, which I actually quite like. The welds on it are very substantial. So you have your piston, which is stored inside of your piston cup. On the inside of the piston cup, there are 3 or 4 gas ports on the barrel itself, so that as the projectiles are passing down the barrel, all of those gases that are trapped behind then feed into the piston cup, which engages upon the piston, which then operates the entire recoil system to, of course, eject the round and then feed the next one. So the operating system is very tanky. You have a stainless steel piston, and you have a two stainless steel operating rods that connect to your bolt in the back. So the entire system is actually very robust. I know a lot of people question the longevity of the systems, but fortunately 12 gauge is not one of the harshest or one of the most high-powered, high-pressure rounds on the market. So it is actually fairly durable, as I noted in the other review as well. Everything is very substantial. There's a lot of steel in the operating system. The one weak point, or the theoretical weak point, is going to actually be the bolt, which I believe is like a lower quality, like cast steel material. And so I'm not sure the exact metallurgy on the bolt itself, though of course I would rather it be a higher quality material to add a little bit of peace of mind and of course longevity. The extractor theoretically could be another weak point. Again, not sure what the exact makeup of the material is. It's a very simple style extractor that's worked very well. I haven't had any problems with the shotgun whatsoever. And the ejector is actually a solid mounted ejector on the inside of the upper receiver. Now again, the entire upper receiver and handguard is 7075 T6 aluminum. So as far as that goes, it is very, very high quality. So if I were to grade the overall build quality and design, I would actually give it something like an A-. It's very, very good. The only thing that's a little bit of a question mark is going to be the bolt. Again, 12 gauge is not the most high pressure round on the market. Probably not a big deal, but again, we would like to see all of our components be a little bit higher quality. Now, because there is a lot, and I mean a lot, of steel and aluminum on this, even though this is a short gun, it's basically the same size as like my 11.5 ARs behind me. This gun naked is about 8 pounds. As you see it, it's about 10-ish or so, which is not crazy heavy for a shotgun, but this is a very tight, very compact package that is heavy. However, because of that short overall length and the enhanced ergonomics or the kind of funky ergonomics of a Bullpup, it is very, very easy to shoot, and it feels great in the hand, even though it is, again, an 18.5-inch barrel with the overall length is like 27, 28 inches, something above that 26-inch mark. So you do have a very compact 12-gauge depth dealer, but the most important question on any semi-automatic shotgun is it reliable, and what is it reliable with? Now, this is a magazine-fed shotgun, so we do, of course, need to mention the magazines. I believe it ships with a 2-rounder, which is this guy for like hunting applications or something like that, which is a flush fit design. And then it also comes with a 5-rounder, and they also sent me the extended long boys. I think that these are either 9 or 10 rounders that do fit. They also sent me a 20-round drum magazine that unfortunately does not fit in this shotgun. It inserts, but it does not actually lock in, so it's just sitting in there because the material here is messing with the mag well. So if I were to keep the shotgun, which I believe I am actually going to end up keeping this shotgun, I am going to need to remove some of the mag well to get it to index on the magazine. I did try this magazine in my other GF12 shotgun, and it works perfectly fine in there. It's actually made by ProMag in the USA. I've had really bad experiences with ProMag, but that magazine actually does seem to work quite well, so I'm pretty impressed. Now, as far as the 5 and 10 round magazines go, they are very heavy steel construction. These are very durable, as you'll see in a lot of the footage that I'm putting in. I did a lot of reloads with them, a lot of dropping with them, and no problems whatsoever. The 5, 10, and 2 rounders that I have, I think I have 3 or 4 of each, were very, very reliable. Now, something odd on these that it's just a gimmick is you see they kind of have this grippy plastic material on the front. That's because this will actually index on a Picatinny rail if you wanted to store an extra magazine, but I think that's quite gimmicky, and I'd rather just put these in a 308 pouch because these actually do fit in 308 pouches, so that's how I was doing most of my reloads off of my belt. So the magazines themselves were perfectly reliable, again, had no problems feeding whatsoever. The ammunition that I tested was basically everything functioned flawlessly. So I had some Rio, really, really weak, like 1175, 1200 FPS, 2 3/4 birdshot. That actually cycled perfectly through here, no issues. I also had some Winchester, just some of their, not super light, but some of their just lighter ammunition. I believe it was like 1250 FPS, again, 2 3/4 birdshot. All of that shot perfectly as well. As I also put 50-ish rounds of buckshot, 2 3/4 inch buckshot, which I believe was Fiocchi, which worked perfectly as well. The only thing that this choked on was some 3-inch Rio hunting loads, some steel birdshot. It had issues feeding a couple of those. Not sure if that was due to the fact that they're longer, being 3 inches versus 2 3/4, and I haven't had that issue in the other GF12, but they did have a little bit of feeding issues, at least a couple times with like the 10 rounds that I had laying around in this shotgun. However, literally with 2 3/4 inch shells, everything from buck to slugs to weak birdshot, and the weakest birdshot that I've ever shot that does not cycle the other gun, not only feeds perfectly in here, but also cycles 100%. And now part of that excellent reliability that I've had with this shotgun with 2 3/4 inch shells at about 250, 300 rounds at this point is that the system is overgassed. However, that is how I would prefer it to be run. I would prefer it to run literally everything that I put into it rather than it be finicky with more high pressure loads. Now, I believe this is the same system as the other GF12 that I have that comes with a light piston and a heavy piston. The kit that I got did not come with a light or a heavy piston, so it's just running the stock one in there, so I haven't changed anything on it whatsoever, and it again has been running basically perfectly. Now, even with it being, you know, quote unquote overgassed for a 12-gauge shotgun, it's very pleasant to shoot. So you'll notice that I can shoot it very quickly, keep my shots on target. It does recoil. I would say it's a little bit worse than like a 308 or something else like that, but not bad. The main drawback of this shotgun, or at least in terms of shootability, is actually going to be the trigger, which we'll talk about in just a minute. Before we do though, I do want to say, once again, the reliability was basically perfect. Now let's talk about some of the weird ergonomics. So the magazines do have last round bolt hold open. So they do keep the magazine or the bolt pinned to the rear. Now these are not, even the 10 rounders, these are not drop-free magazines, so they are very sticky. The mag well is very tight. I kind of prefer that, honestly. That way the feed angle does not change on the magazine so that they can be as reliable as possible. And again, we're talking about a semi-auto 12 gauge, and so reliability is one of the generally speaking, one of the hardest things to get right. So having a tighter mag well, making sure that that magazine does not move whatsoever, so the feed angle doesn't change, and it keeps at the, again, optimum reliability. So now, as you guys might have noticed in the video, my preferred way of reloading this is kind of a 2 or 3 step system. So you have to come up first, press the magazine release, which gets the magazine to move down just a little bit, then you rip it out, push it back in. Now the bolt hold open / bolt release is up here. It is a very, very stiff spring that they use for it, or just the force on the magazine itself is quite excessive. So you either have to really bear down on it with your thumb, which is also quite a reach, as you can tell, or you just lift up your palm and push down with your entire forearm, and that gets it to close a lot more consistently. So once again, that's a push, rip, insert, come over the top with your hand and close it up. Again, takes about 2.5 seconds if you're doing it well, which again, for reloading 5 to 10 rounds or even 20 rounds if you have a drum that works, is much, much faster than doing quad loading or single feeding like your tactical shotguns or regular pump fed shotguns. Now moving forward from there, we do have a ambidextrous safety, which is on the left and the right side. It's identical, mirrored on both sides. It's fairly short, kind of like a little gas pedal. It works great. It's very tactile, very clicky. I don't have any problems with that whatsoever. It does allow you to engage the safety when the hammer is not back. So for instance, we are clear in here, so if I pull the trigger, it does still allow me to put it on safe, which is a nice feature. A lot of people like that. Me personally, I like to be able to use the safety to check if the hammer is back or not, but that's more of a personal thing. Now moving up, we have our charging handle, which is literally just a piece of machined steel that's very nicely knurled. It looks really good. That actually just fits right into the operating rods themselves, and it is, again, just a piece of steel that fits into that slot that allows you to charge the weapon. Now, it is technically ambidextrous. If you pull on this with an obscene amount of force, you can swap it over to the left side. Personally, I have it on the right side right now just because it makes it easier with the bullpup design. And if you have it locked to the rear, you can actually just take your firing hand, lift it up, and pull the trigger or pull the charging handle back to then send the bolt home. It's a little bit easier, and it's a little bit more out of the way for me to have it on the right side versus the left side. Now, were this not a bullpup, I might prefer it on the left side, but again, because this is a bullpup, it puts the charging handle right next to my right hand, which makes it very easy to actuate it should I need to. And of course, because it is actually attached to the operating rods themselves, if you were to have some sort of issue where it didn't fully go into battery, you can beat on that to get it to go forward, kind of like a forward assist. Now, on the front end of the gun, you'll notice it's pretty tight in here, and that's because there's just not a lot of room because it doesn't have the same length that it would if it were not a bullpup. So there's a lot of stuff really tight in here, and this is about all you can fit. If you were going to try and put on like a laser aiming module, you might be able to put it here on the left side, but then that's going to mess with your grip a little bit. It came with this really nifty angled foregrip from the factory, which I actually really like. It's basically just a carbon copy of the Magpul one. Works really, really well. It's very, very comfy. It has 4 sections of Picatinny, obviously 1 on the bottom, 2 on the sides, and then the monolithic rail on top. The handguard itself is one piece that is attached via 1 pin, and of course the barrel shroud that locks it down in place. So it's not something that I would necessarily trust to keep 100% because it's not actually physically attached. Now, the top rail itself is only about 15 inches of Picatinny. It starts just before the ejection port, which I kind of like, but you don't have all that much room like you would have on like a longer AR or something else like that. So your iron sights, light, tape switch, optic is about all you can get. On this specific one, I also have a GroveTech side rider for my Sentinel sling, which is quite nice, doesn't really take up much room. But again, if you were going to try and add another thing on here, like a laser aiming module or another light or something, whatever else that you guys can think of, you're going to have to get creative with how you start mounting stuff. Overall, for competition / fun / home defense shotgun, I think it has basically the perfect amount of real estate. Now, we've mentioned it already, but now let's go ahead and talk about the trigger. So the trigger on the shotgun is, again, it is a bullpup, so it literally has a steel rod going from the front trigger all the way here to the back. I believe it's about 15 inches long for a trigger bar. So one thing that adds a lot to the weight of the trigger. Now, the trigger itself is not terrible. It is about 12 pounds or so, but it's very, or at least I should say, it's not very mushy for a 12 or 15 pound trigger. So you kind of just sit there right on the wall and you just build, and you have a little bit of creep, and then it has a let off. The let off is pretty mushy. It's not crisp or anything else like that. but overall, it's not terrible for being 12 pounds. It's not crazy gritty. It's a little mushy. You have like one little like pre-travel break before the trigger actually breaks, and then the reset on it is mushy and long, but again, I was still able to fire it fairly quickly. However, with the same recoil system on the GF12, I was able to fire it much faster. Now, that being said, am I able to fire this fast enough? Absolutely. I think the trigger is absolutely serviceable. It's just nothing to write home about, and for a bullpup trigger, it's actually not too terrible. Again, it's a little stagey, it's very heavy, and it kind of just breaks, a little mushy, and then you get that long, mushy reset. Now, before we get into my final thoughts on the shotgun, I do want to run through a couple downsides for you guys so that you guys are aware of it, because it's not all sunshine and rainbows. So this is, of course, a bullpup shotgun, which means that it has a fixed length of pull. The length of pull works really well for me. It's very, very comfortable, and I don't have a lot of experience with bullpups, but I think this is very, very intuitive, very easy to use. However, again, if you're really tall or really short, this could be a problem for you. Now, on top of that, a fairly minor downside, I would say, is that there are a few components on here that use screws. For instance, the magazine release, which looks very similar to like an AR-10 style magazine release, actually has a screw that did come loose on me. It was very simple to fix. You just screw it back down until it's tight, and then you're good to go. As well as the safety has 2 bolts on either side. Now, we're dealing with 12 gauge recoil, which is quite a lot. It's quite vicious. So you do want to probably loosen those up, apply some Loctite, and then tighten them back down again, and then you'll be good to go. On top of that, on the back here, there was a cheek riser. I have no idea why they put a cheek riser on a gun with a such a low bore axis, because again, this is basically like an AR-15 where it just has straight inline recoil, so there's no need for a cheek riser whatsoever. So I did take that off. Now, a couple more downsides to this shotgun is that, one, if you notice when I'm shooting it, the ejection port is very, very close to my face. And as I mentioned earlier, this is a fairly overgassed shotgun, so you are going to be sucking a lot of gas. One, through the ejection port, which kind of just fumes right up into your face, and then also the piston system is basically on the front left side of your face, then you have the ejection port on the right side of your face. So this really does like to dump a lot of gunk right back at you. A minor downside, I would say, but it is going to be much more noticeable than if you have a non-bullpup style shotgun like this, where that's going to be, again, in front of you instead of right next to your face. So overall, with the design and ergonomics, I actually quite like it. This is one of the first times that I've ever got to shoot a bullpup, even a bullpup 12 gauge like this, and it was very intuitive, very, very natural. It did not take me long whatsoever, with a little bit of dry fire, to get very, very comfortable with the reloads, how it presented, all that sort of fun stuff. The trigger pins, the front one and the back two, because of course there's like a 15-inch trigger bar that runs back and forth, are captured, so those are not going to walk free on you. You have 3 captured takedown pins. Overall, the upper receiver is very high quality, 7075 T6 aluminum, and then the rest of that is steel. The only question mark, again, is that bolt. But I do see that this shotgun could have a lot of uses. Now, some of the problems with reviewing Turkish shotguns in general is that the QC is not quite there. So, for instance, this shotgun ran extremely well for me. Literally everything I put through it ran perfectly, at least 2 3/4 inch shells. So I'm actually going to have a ton of fun putting another 200, 300, 400 rounds through the shotgun in the next month or two. But for you, if you pick one of these up, is it going to run the exact same way? Is it going to fall apart on you? I don't know. For me personally, I really like the way that this shotgun came together. I really like the setup on it. I like how reliable it was. I like how easy the ergonomics were to get used to. Again, some of the question marks there are going to be the long-term, like the really long-term reliability of it, and long-term in terms of its durability and some of the QC and stuff like that. But for what it is right now in my hands, this is a pretty exceptional value in terms of semi-automatic shotguns. So for me, the use case for this could literally be anything, whether that's just fun target shooting, hunting with the shorter magazines. Again, not really ideal for hunting just with the smaller barrel, but you could definitely do it if you wanted to. I would have no problem taking slug shots with this out to 75, 100 yards, depending again on my loadings, that sort of stuff. But overall, competition, sure, absolutely. It's going to be a lot easier, a lot faster than learning how to quad load. I don't know how to quad load. I prefer magazines because that's what I use on all of my real guns. Now, for home defense, I personally wouldn't use it, even though it is kind of of geared to that because again, it is a 18.5-inch shotgun, semi-automatic, magazine fed, bullpup, so it's very, very short, very handy. Again, not much bigger than like an 11.5 AR. So it's kind of perfect for that, but I just don't really enjoy shotguns for home defense. However, if you have this shotgun, you really like it, you vet your loads that they aren't going to squash inside of the magazines and become unreliable, then yeah, it could be absolutely viable as home defense, truck gun, whatever sort of use case you can put in there. Again, the main question mark for me is going to be the very long-term durability, which again, we will be doing more shooting and more testing with this shotgun. So overall, again, I really, really like it. You can buy cheaper shotguns. I think that some of the normal shotguns are like $300 to $500, and I'm sure that you can find the bullpups cheaper as well. However, if you are looking for a 100% serious application shotgun, I would probably steer you away from this, as that ultimate reliability is really what you're looking for, that long-term durability. So there are other shotguns for similar or a little bit more money that can provide you that proven track record and again, that ultimate long-term reliability. Overall though, I still think it is a exceptionally fun shotgun. It's a high value shotgun depending on your application for it, whether that's just fun target shooting, hunting, competition, whatever else you can think of. So that's about it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think of this shotgun down below. Once again, thank you to Gun Deals for having me on. Go ahead and like, share, and subscribe while you're here, and comment literally anything down below. And that's about it for me, guys. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace off.